It all depends on a person's lifestyle. A young man rang me and he said, I'm a diabetic. I've been a diabetic for a few years. He said, I'm 30. And when I got him to tell me his food program, it was all of this. Now, it was whole grain. Oh, it was whole grain bread and whole grain cereal, but it was just so much carbohydrates, and it was mostly wheat, because he was puzzled as to why he wasn't conquering it. So I said to him, instead of having a bowl of cereal for breakfast, get some sourdough spelt bread and have baked beans or scrambled tofu or lentils. And instead of having pasta for lunch, have some hummus and some gluten-free crackers and salads and some nuts, seeds, olives. And instead of having rice for tea, have legumes for tea. You can get tiny little crock pots that only take a quart. Did you know that? So people who live by themselves, they can just do little amounts. And I said, and in the morning, throw some veggies, some legumes you've soaked all night, maybe bring them to the boil, rinse them again, put them in the crock pot. You come home at night, you've got a bowl of soup. Especially if a young man is a tradesman and he's got to eat breakfast at 6 and he's working physically hard all day, and then he has lunch at 12, he's working physically hard, he'll need something like a minestrone soup at night, something with a little bit more substance in it. So again, you're working with the person, their age, their lifestyle, but with many, they can get away with the 2 meals. So again, it's not absolute, it's not written in stone. It's what works with the person. Breathing through the nose, how does that help diabetes? That helps diabetes by making enough oxygen available so we can get down to the powerhouse of the cell, more energy. And breathing through the nose releases those 2 gases, nitric oxide and carbon dioxide, causing vasodilation, opening of the blood capillaries, meaning a better delivery of nutrients to the cellular level. Nutrition, we've looked at nutrition. Moderation, don't overdo it. You overdo the food you're eating, it can be very difficult for the stomach to digest. And exercise. Exercise increases insulin receptor site on the cell. Exercise opens those capillaries. Of course, exercise automatically causes vasodilation, a better delivery of nutrients around. So this is how Sustain Me can help a person overcome diabetes. The principles are incredibly simple, aren't they? But the 2 stories I showed you are illustrations of how it can be done. I mentioned to you the nutritionist and scientist, husband and wife, that did our program, and she's the lady that told me about being in university and the cholesterol levels 40 years ago were 300 and under. Well, her husband was a scientist, and he said, 40 years ago I was told I was a pre-diabetic, and I was told I had to eat some sort of legume every day. He said, every day? They said, yes, if you want to conquer diabetes, eat either lentils or black-eyed peas or, you know, it's a huge variety. So he said I did, and I never developed diabetes. Because remember what those legumes do, they give a lovely, steady, sure delivery of fuel. You go the distance.